Hello there. Welcome back to Boring Science for Sleep, a place where curiosity doesn't keep you awake. It rocks you gently into rest. If this is your first time here, you've stumbled into a slow stream of sleepy wonder. We invite you to settle in, nestle under your favorite blanket, and let the quiet hum of science help you drift off tonight. And if you've been here before, you already know what to do. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath grow long. Tonight, let's wander where the forest is falling asleep too. Because as we speak, somewhere out there, a leaf is letting go. You can almost hear it. A soft rustle in the trees, barely a whisper. The hush of autumn, arriving not with fanfare, but with a slow, golden sigh. Leaves once bright and bustling with green are now fading into a quieter palette, but not all at once, and not without a story. Some are turning the colour of late afternoon tea. Others blush crimson, as if bashful to say goodbye. Some go gold like melted candlelight. Some curl, some crisp, some cling a little longer. And you may have wondered, why do they change? Why not just fall? Why the colours? Why the show? What if I told you that even in this sleepy moment, as the trees prepare to rest, they are still communicating, still making decisions, still dancing with light and air and temperature, in ways quiet enough to make you yawn. Tonight, that's where we'll go. Through a canopy of fading chlorophyll, past the hidden pigments, waiting patiently beneath, toward the silent, elegant process, by which a forest begins to say, not farewell, but see you after the snow. You don't need to remember any of it. That's the best part. You can just listen and let go. Let the science slip past your ears like a breeze through dry branches. Let your mind wander like a leaf on a lazy wind. We'll start with green, and little by little, drift through yellow, orange, crimson, until we reach the quiet brown bed of fallen things, where all colour rests, and maybe you do too. So, take a deep breath in, and out. Let's begin. With the green that hid everything. So here we are, dear listener, on the very edge of a forest that remembers summer. Before the leaves turned golden or crimson or brown, before they even thought of letting go, they were ruled by green. Not just any green, a green so purposeful, so persistent, that it covered every branch, every leaf, every fluttering surface, in a quiet dominance. A green that meant life, motion, sunlight, and growth. This is the story of that green, the green that hid everything else. If you could look very closely at a leaf, close enough to see its cells, close enough to peer into the tiny factories tucked inside each one, you'd find chlorophyll. It's not just a pigment. It's not just what makes leaves look green. It's what allows life on Earth to eat sunlight. Inside every leaf, within each cell, are tiny structures called chloroplasts, and inside those, chlorophyll waits, ready to catch light. When sunlight touches a leaf, chlorophyll springs to life. It absorbs energy from the red and blue parts of the light spectrum, like tuning into specific colors on a radio dial, and it reflects the green away. That's why we see green, because the chlorophyll is too busy holding on to the rest of the light, working quietly to turn it into food. Yes, food. For the tree, for the forest, for the world. Through a beautiful process called photosynthesis. Light from the sun, water from the roots, carbon dioxide from the air. These three ingredients are drawn together, inside the green-lit laboratory of the leaf. The chlorophyll helps mix them. It captures the sunlight's energy and uses it to transform these simple things into glucose, sugar, and oxygen. The sugar feeds the tree. The oxygen drifts into the air for lungs like yours and mine. Photosynthesis is slow and silent and astonishing. It happens without noise. It doesn't need applause. But it powers nearly every living thing on Earth. And in the high days of summer, chlorophyll is everywhere. It's working overtime. It's flooding each leaf with green, so thick and full that it drowns out everything else. The yellows? Hidden. The oranges? Silenced. The reds, not even born yet. All we see is green. Imagine a chorus, singing so loudly. You forget the quieter voices beneath. That's chlorophyll, a summer soloist who doesn't like to share the spotlight. But even the boldest performer must one day take a bow. Because chlorophyll, for all its brilliance, is delicate. It must be constantly renewed. The tree has to work hard to keep making it, repairing it when it breaks down. And it only does this when it makes sense. When the days are long and the light is plenty, and photosynthesis is worth the energy. But as the seasons change, something subtle begins to shift. The days shorten, the nights grow cooler, the sun no longer lingers in the sky quite so generously, and deep inside the leaves, the tree begins to whisper, time to slow down. Imagine a factory preparing to close for the season. The machines still run, but not quite as fast. Supplies run low. Managers pause orders. The lights begin to dim. That's what happens inside the leaf. The chlorophyll isn't destroyed all at once. It fades. Its production slows. Its color weakens. And as the green curtain pulls back, something beautiful begins to happen. The hidden pigments waiting quietly beneath start to emerge. But we'll get to that part soon. For now, stay with the green. Let's sit a little longer in the warmth of its rule. Because it wasn't always like this. Millions of years ago, plants had to figure out how to survive under the Sunday. Too much heat, too much light, it could burn them. Too little, and they'd starve. Chlorophyll became the bridge, the middleman between Earth and star, a molecule so perfectly shaped for the job that it hasn't changed much in all that time. It gave plants power, and in doing so, gave animals food. It gave air, and in doing so, gave life. And yet, for all its power, it is temporary, seasonal, always destined to step aside when the tree prepares for rest. There's something peaceful in that, isn't there? Even the most essential things know when it's time to let go. So, when you walk under a green summer canopy, you are walking through a symphony in its climax, a final burst of brilliance, before the long rest begins. Each leaf glowing with the light it captured, each tree humming with energy gathered from the sky, each breeze through the branches a whisper of the quiet changes yet to come. And even if you didn't notice, even if you simply said, "Ah, how green everything is," you were seeing the very force that made it all possible. But now, the green begins to fade, not out of failure, not out of weakness, but as part of the plan, because what's hidden beneath that green has been waiting for shorter days, for cooler nights, for the exact moment when chlorophyll takes its bow and the rest of the pigments rise. And when they do, the forest becomes something entirely new. But for now, let your thoughts rest in green. Let it cover your mind like a soft summer leaf. Let photosynthesis whisper its quiet rhythm, soft and slow, like your own breath. In and out, light and air, roots and sky, sleep and wonder. We'll turn the page soon. We'll meet the colours waiting underneath. But for now, rest, dear listener. Let the green carry you, just a little farther, into sleep. The green never lasts forever, not because something went wrong, but because the planet is always in motion, always tilting, always turning, and slowly, gently, it carries us into autumn. You may not notice it at first. One day, the sun lingers just a little less on your skin. The mornings feel quieter. The shadows stretch just a little farther across the lawn. It's subtle, this seasonal slide. It doesn't come with a crash or a siren, just a slow dimming, like the room light being dialed down, click by quiet click. This is how it begins. The light begins to leave. And the trees, they notice. Not in the way you or I do. They don't keep calendars. They don't watch the sunset and whisper, It's coming, but they feel it deep in their chemistry. The length of daylight, the quality of sun, the drop in night temperature. To a tree, these are not inconveniences. They are signals, carefully timed messages from the sky, telling them rest is near. This seasonal shift is called photoperiodism, a plant's response to the changing length of day and night, and it begins long before the leaves fall, before they blush red or melt into gold, before the air even turns cold. It starts when the tree senses that summer is slipping away. The message travels inward, not with words, but with signals. Hormonal whispers move from leaf to stem to root. Production slows. Photosynthesis starts to wind down. Chlorophyll, the tireless summer worker, is no longer being replaced. And when the green begins to fade, the leaf begins to change. But this isn't decay. This isn't death. This is choreography. The tree is preparing itself, deliberately, wisely, for a season without sunlight. Because in winter the rules change. Water becomes scarce. Frozen ground locks up nutrients. Sunlight grows faint and fleeting. Photosynthesis becomes inefficient, even dangerous. So the tree, rather than struggle, lets go of its leaves entirely. But not all at once. The letting go is a process. It starts with this moment, this loss of light, this drawing back of summer's long golden hand. You might think trees go dormant only when it's freezing, but the preparation begins long before that. Before the first frost, before the first scarf is worn, it begins with the length of the night. In this growing darkness, the tree turns inward. It begins to seal off the vessels that carry nutrients to its leaves. It begins to build a protective wall, where each leaf meets the branch, a small barrier of cells called the abscission layer. This is the tree saying, I won't send you more. You've done your work. You can rest now. And once the flow of nutrients slows, once the chlorophyll fades, what was hidden underneath begins to rise. But we're not there yet. Let's stay in this moment a little longer. In the hush between the seasons, in the cool breath of an afternoon, when the light comes in at a sharper angle, the shadows are longer now, not because the sun has changed, but because we have. The earth has tilted just slightly away from it, and now light arrives differently. It brushes the world at a slant. It filters through the trees in thinner, more golden rays. The days grow shorter, the dark comes earlier, but it's not just about hours. It's about energy. Sunlight is a kind of fuel, and when that fuel begins to dwindle, the engine slows down. A tree does not waste energy. It does not cling to unsustainable systems. It does not panic at the change. It adapts. It listens to the sky and makes peace with the night. There's a kind of wisdom in that, a softness in accepting that even light must leave. You and I are wired to chase light. We turn on lamps, brighten screens, stretch the day with electricity and routine. But the forest, it lets the day end. It doesn't fight the dusk. It folds into it. So as the light fades and the season tips, the forest changes its rhythm. Insects slow, birdsong shortens, the underbrush settles, and the trees prepare not for action, but for stillness. All because the light has begun to leave. There's beauty in that moment, in the in-between, when the leaves haven't yet turned, but the air feels different, and the trees seem to know something you don't. This is when the transformation begins, not with colour, but with quiet. Because shorter days do more than change the forest. They change the forest's plans. The tree doesn't expect to grow in winter. It expects to survive. And to do that, it needs to let go of what no longer serves it through the cold. Leaves are beautiful, but they are also liabilities in winter. They lose water. They freeze easily. They catch snow and break branches. So, when the light leaves, the tree begins the gentle work of releasing its summer. But not all trees do this. Not everywhere. In tropical regions, where daylight doesn't vary much, trees often keep their leaves year-round. The signal never arrives. The seasons don't shift the same way. But in places with long, cold winters, this signal, the shortening day, is everything. It marks the beginning of the end and the start of something new. This seasonal rhythm has been ticking for millions of years, before cities, before calendars, before humans measured time at all. The tilt of the earth, the path around the sun, they write this story, and the trees have always read it well. So the next time you notice the early dark, or see your shadow stretch a little farther, or sense that the evening feels somehow emptier, remember, the trees feel it too, not with sadness, not with resistance, but with calm preparation. They do not panic as the sun retreats. They do not chase the light. They rest, and they make something beautiful out of that moment of transition, because before the leaves fall, before the branches go bare, before the snow comes, they will light up the sky, in colours you've never quite seen the same way twice. But first, the light must leave, so let it go, gently. Let the shadows stretch long across your thoughts. Let the slant of sun mark the end of day and the beginning of something slower. Sleep comes like the season does, not suddenly, but steadily. You don't have to rush into it. You can ease your way, as the trees do, one breath at a time, one golden shadow at a time. And when you're ready, we'll find out what's been waiting beneath the green. By now, the green has begun to slip away. It hasn't vanished, but it no longer sings so loudly. It fades at the edges, like the last hum of a summer insect drifting into silence. And in that fading, something long hidden begins to emerge. A second voice, one that has been quiet all along, patient, steady, waiting for its turn in the light. Its name is carotenoid. You may not know it by name, but you've seen it in the golden skin of a ripe banana, in the orange flesh of a carrot, in the flicker of colour behind a yellow maple leaf as it catches the low sunday. Carotenoids are pigments. Just like chlorophyll, they live inside the leaf. They've been there all along, not created at the last moment, not summoned by the cold. They were always present, but the green was louder. This is their story. They are the pigments of patience. While chlorophyll captured light and powered the tree, carotenoids watched. They contributed quietly. They helped absorb extra energy. They protected the leaf from damage. They supported photosynthesis, but never stole the spotlight. And when chlorophyll faded, the carotenoids remained, not because they grew stronger, but because they were no longer hidden. They were revealed. That's the quiet beauty of this part of autumn. You are not seeing something newly made. You are seeing what was always there. Carotenoids are stable. They don't break down as quickly as chlorophyll. So, when the green recedes, these pigments are left behind like soft echoes of the Sunday. Yellows, oranges, golds. They appear gently, like lanterns lit in a forest at dusk. They don't arrive with urgency, but with familiarity, because they were always there, beneath the green. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To realize that fall colours aren't really new. They're just uncovered, unmasked, revealed, like a painting behind a curtain, or the final layer of a palimpsest, a story written long ago beneath the one you thought you were reading. We so often think of change as addition, but sometimes change is simply exposure. The tree isn't creating colour, it's letting us see what's been hidden. In a way, that's what autumn is for. A slow, graceful revealing of things that summer kept secret. Let's pause here, in this soft gold. Let's walk through the forest, not as explorers, but as guests. Let the branches overhead glow amber. Let the breeze carry the hush of ancient pigments, who've waited quietly beneath chlorophyll's rule. Carotenoids do more than color the leaves. They are guardians. They help manage the excess energy absorbed by chlorophyll. Too much sunlight can damage cells, so carotenoids act as buffers, absorbing overflow, safeguarding the leaf's delicate machinery. Even now, as photosynthesis slows, they remain. They stabilize the leaf. They hold on. They aren't showy, not like the reds that will come later. They don't need cold nights to appear. They don't need stress or sugar or signal. They just are. They are the forest's soft light, the mellow note in the seasonal chord. You'll find them in aspens, as they shimmer in gold, in birches, as they pale into gentle yellow, in hickories, as they hold sunlight in their veins. A few moments longer, every tree has its own palette, its own balance of pigments, its own way of revealing. And yet, across species and continents, carotenoids speak the same language, one of warmth, of patience, of quiet resilience. Their very name hints at this. Carotenoid, named after the carrot, but present in spinach, corn, peppers, marigolds. Present even in your own body. When you eat fruits and vegetables rich in these pigments, they become part of you, helping your vision, protecting your cells, continuing their quiet work inside another form. The golden light of autumn, ingested, absorbed, remembered. It's beautiful to think that the same molecule that colors a leaf in fall can also support the eyes that admire it. The forest gives, even as it lets go. And so, as the chlorophyll drains away, what's left behind isn't emptiness, but soft illumination. It's easy to take these colors for granted, to drive past a golden tree and think only, oh, how pretty. But this moment is not random. It is not accidental. It's a chemical memory, a structured unfolding. The leaf has been holding this color all season long. Now, finally, it is allowed to show it. And for a brief stretch of days, sometimes only a week or two, the forest glows from within, like a memory surfacing, like something half remembered, coming fully into view. Not because it changed, but because you did. Because now, you're looking beneath the green. So much of life works this way. So much is hidden under urgency, under brightness, under noise. But when that layer lifts, even for a moment, you see what's been waiting. The yellows, the golds, the quiet efforts, the unsung helpers, the carotenoids. They never asked to be noticed. They didn't mind being second. But when the time came, they shone. That kind of quiet glow, it doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't ask for applause. It simply waits for the right season to speak. So tonight, as you rest, let the golden leaves remind you that patience isn't passive, that what you carry quietly may one day color the world. Let yourself be still, like a leaf that no longer needs to work. Let the chlorophyll fall away. Let what's underneath rise. There is beauty in what's been hidden, and there's peace in letting it be seen. When you're ready, we'll meet the red that arrives later, the color that isn't always there, but comes like a flame at the end of a long, golden breath. But for now, let yourself drift in gold and rest. You've seen the yellow, you've seen the gold, but there's a moment in autumn when something entirely different appears. A flash of red, vivid, sudden, almost too bright for the quiet season. A flame among the branches. A blush on the cheek of a forest about to sleep. Unlike the yellows and oranges, this color doesn't come from something that was always there. It isn't simply revealed. It's created, built fresh, in the final weeks before the leaf lets go. This is the work of anthocyanins. They are the last pigment to arrive, the final layer of autumn's palette. Not a whisper, but a statement, a red farewell, and it is not guaranteed. While carotenoids wait quietly in every summer leaf, anthocyanins must be made. They are not passive pigments. They are deliberate. They depend on timing, on conditions, on the will of the tree. In other words, they are not inevitable. That's what makes them so special. Anthocyanins are born when sugars get trapped in the leaf. As the tree prepares for dormancy, it begins sealing off the veins that connect each leaf to its branch. This creates a kind of slowdown, a traffic jam of nutrients. If the days are sunny and the nights are cool but not freezing, then photosynthesis continues just a little longer, enough to keep making sugars. But because the veins are closing, those sugars can't leave the leaf. They build up. And in that build-up, something begins to stir. Anthocyanins are synthesized in response to that trapped sugar. They emerge not in spite of the leaf separation, but because of it. A final act, a last creation, and they come in many shades: scarlet, crimson, deep burgundy, violet black. The color depends on the leaf's acidity, its chemistry, its species, the weather. This is why a single tree can wear many reds at once, why one branch might look like wine and the next like fire. The science is precise, but the result feels like magic. Unlike chlorophyll and carotenoids, anthocyanins don't assist with photosynthesis. They don't help the tree collect sunlight. They aren't essential to growth. So, why make them? That question still invites debate. Some scientists suggest anthocyanins act as a kind of sunscreen, protecting the leaf's tissues during this vulnerable transition. Others think they defend against pests or reduce oxidative stress. Some say they help trees recover nutrients from the leaf before it falls. And yet, the truth might also be simpler. The tree may just be saying goodbye beautifully, because nature doesn't always optimize. Sometimes it adorns. Sometimes the forest doesn't just prepare, it performs. You see it in the boldness of a sugar maple, burning like a torch above the quiet road, in the deep crimson of a red oak, reflected in still water at dusk, in the burgundy blush of a dogwood leaf, shivering in a breeze. It cannot stop. These colors are fleeting. Some years, they're everywhere. Other years, barely a trace. They depend on a delicate balance: sun, temperature, soil moisture, timing. A late frost can dim them. A warm autumn can delay them. Too much rain, and they're muted. Too much drought, and they may not come at all. But when the balance is right, when the day is bright and the night is just cold enough, the trees respond, and they make red. Rich, wild, unapologetic red. There's something bold about that. To spend an entire season being useful, photosynthesizing, feeding, growing, and then, at the end, to create something, just for a moment, not to survive, not to feed, but simply to be vivid before the fall. It's easy to see these colors as a kind of death, but that isn't what's happening. The leaf is still alive when it turns red, still active, still responding to light, to air, to chemistry. It's in transition, a living thing mid-transformation. You can think of it like the final notes of a song, played just before the music ends. Not silence, not yet, just the echo that comes when something is almost over. In some cultures, red leaves are seen as signs of passion, of fire, of urgency. But here, in the stillness of autumn, they feel more like a deep breath, a pause, not a warning, but a poem. Nature didn't need to make them red, but it did. It chose to end the season not in grey, but in brilliance. And perhaps that says something about how we too might approach our transitions, not with haste, not with resistance, but with attention, with colour, with intention. Anthocyanins may last only a few days in some leaves. Others might hold their colour for weeks. But no matter how long they stay, They are part of the farewell. And then, quietly, without fanfare, the red leaf falls. It curls, it drifts, it settles. Its colour fades. Its pigment breaks down. Its molecules return to the soil, but the memory of it lingers, in the branch that once held it, in the root that reclaims it, in the eye that watched it dance one last time. So tonight, as you rest, imagine that red, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that holds it softly, the kind that arrives late and leaves early, but says something clear while it's here. There is a time to work, a time to grow, and then a time to let go beautifully. The trees know this. They practice it each year. And in the brief, brilliant life of anthocyanin, they show us how. So, let the red stay with you, just long enough to feel it. Then let it fall. You're almost ready for the letting go. And when you are, we'll watch how the weather joins in, how temperature and light and the breath of the wind all help paint the forest's final scene. But not yet. For now, rest in red and sleep. Not every autumn looks the same. Some years, the trees flare in colour, a sudden brilliant blaze of scarlet and gold. Other years, they seem quieter, fading straight from green to brown, without much of a show. What makes the difference? Why does the forest sometimes light up like stained glass, and other times seem to pass into winter, without saying much at all? The answer lies in something you can feel, but never fully control. The weather, the temperature of the days and nights, the brightness of the Sunday, the pattern of the rain, the rhythm of the wind, all of it comes together, not just to end the season, but to paint it. Let's imagine a perfect autumn for colour. It begins with a warm, wet spring. Trees grow well. Leaves develop fully. The canopy becomes lush and thick, rich in chlorophyll, ready to power the long summer ahead. Then comes summer, sunny but not scorched. Plenty of water. No droughts, no stress. The leaves stay healthy. They hold on to their pigments, strong and full. As the days begin to shorten, the light fades just enough. Not abruptly, gradually. The trees begin to respond. And now, the real transformation begins. If the early autumn days are bright and warm, and the nights are cool but not freezing, then something delicate happens inside each leaf. Photosynthesis slows. Chlorophyll begins to break down. And in that process, pigments begin to shift. Carotenoids, always present, linger longer. Anthocyanins, if conditions are right, begin to form. And this is where weather plays its quiet role. Cool nights help trap sugars in the leaves, the trigger for anthocyanin production. Sunny days keep the photosynthesis engine running, but not too fast. If there's enough moisture in the soil, and no harsh frost arrives too soon, then the tree continues its work of slowly revealing and creating colour. Each pigment responds to this pattern in its own way. Carotenoids remain stable, giving us yellows and oranges that arrive regardless of the year's drama. But anthocyanins are more sensitive. They need the right tension, warmth by day, chill by night. Not a freeze, just a coolness, enough to signal change, without shutting everything down. And, when that balance is met, the reds and purples come to life. They are like music notes that require just the right pressure, the right breath of air, to sound. But the scale can tip easily. Too much rain in early fall, and clouds block the Sunday. Too little rain, and the leaves become stressed, drying out before they can colour. A sudden frost can damage the leaf cells, shutting down pigment production altogether. A stormy week can knock many of them down before they ever get the chance to glow. So, the brilliance of fall is never promised. It is weather's art, painted in real time. a collaboration between sky and tree, daylight and darkness, warmth and cool. It's fragile, and that fragility makes it feel even more beautiful. Because every year is different. Every forest has its own moment, and you never know which walk, which glance upward, will catch a tree at its most luminous. There's science here, yes. A careful balancing of photosynthetic decline, environmental triggers, and cellular chemistry. But there's poetry too, the kind that only appears when the conditions are just right, when everything lines up for a brief, burning moment before the quiet of winter begins. The weather doesn't just influence colour, it also shapes the pace. A slow, steady cooling leads to a gradual transition. The forest shifts gently, as if each tree is in dialogue with the others. But a rapid temperature drop can rush the process. Leaves may yellow suddenly, then fall without much fanfare. Humidity can hold leaves in place longer, while dry air loosens their grip. Wind can scatter them before the pigments have had their full say. So, what you see in autumn is never just about the tree. It's about the sky above it, the air around it, the soil beneath it, and the intricate timing of all three. Even within one tree, you'll see variation. One branch glowing orange, another still green, another already bare. That's because microclimates exist within a single canopy. Sunlight might hit one side more directly. Wind may reach the top branches first. Soil moisture may differ just a few feet apart. And all of this feeds the forest's final masterpiece, a canvas in motion, a mosaic painted one cell at a time. To watch it is to see. A living negotiation between biology and weather, neither one fully in control, but both working together to create something fleeting. There is no reset button, no way to rewind the best week of colour once it has passed. You can't schedule it. You can only witness it. And perhaps that is the lesson the forest offers, that the most beautiful things are not always predictable. They are not always repeatable. They happen when the world allows them to. And when they do, it is worth slowing down to notice. So tonight, as you lie still, imagine walking through that moment, the air just cool enough to make you pull your coat closer, the light slanting in soft amber, the breeze rustling through paper-thin leaves, and all around you, trees glowing with weather's gentle touch, a gift made from sun and shadow and just the right breath of cold. You don't need to understand every molecule. You don't need to remember the data. You can simply rest in the knowing that weather, too, has hands that paint. And as the forest prepares to let go, it does so in colour, not because it must, but because it can. We'll soon explore how different trees bring their own colours to the scene, how some are golden by nature, while others burn red with purpose. But for now, just breathe. Let the cool air come into your thoughts. Let the clear night rise gently behind your eyes. And let yourself drift as slowly and beautifully as a leaf in the right kind of wind. Not all trees speak autumn in the same voice. Some whisper in gold, some shout in crimson, some murmur in bronze and copper, while others fall away in silence, fading straight to brown, never showing the colours that others do. This is not accident. This is identity, because each tree carries its own palette, its own set of pigments, its own quiet rhythm for when to change, how to change, and how long to hold on before letting go. Species matters, and when you begin to notice which trees turn what colour, and when, you start to see the forest not as a single thing, but as a chorus of individuals. Let's walk through a few of them now. Begin with the sugar maple. If autumn were a painting, the sugar maple would be the boldest stroke. It is known for its dazzling display, a blend of orange, yellow, and especially red that can turn whole hillsides. into blazing mosaics. The sugar maple produces large amounts of anthocyanins when conditions are right, giving it that signature scarlet flare. But it also carries carotenoids, giving it a range from gold to flame as chlorophyll fades. It's no wonder these trees are beloved in fall, their leaves often resembling stained glass when lit from behind by an amber sunday. Now, turn to the red maple. Its name gives you a hint. Though green in summer, this tree leans toward crimson in fall, especially in its outer leaves, which get the most sunday. Its red is sometimes deep, almost maroon, sometimes brighter, like an ember. The red maple responds sensitively to temperature and light, which makes it a kind of mood ring for autumn. Next, look at the oak. Oaks are slower. They take their time. While others burst into color and release their leaves, many oaks hold on, sometimes deep into winter. Their color is subtler, often rusty brown or bronze, with hints of red that appear only in certain varieties. Pin oaks may show scarlet. White oaks can carry soft pinks or purples before fading. But even when not vivid, oaks bring richness, a low hum in the forest's fading chord. Now, find the birch. Birches go gold. Their leaves are small, their bark pale, so when autumn arrives, they seem to shimmer, bright yellow, like coin-sized suns strung through the air. Their color comes from carotenoids. They rarely make anthocyanins, so you won't find red in a birch. But the gold is enough, especially when the wind shakes through them and the leaves flutter like delicate bells. Aspen, too, loves gold. In groves, they move together, whole stands turning the same color at once. The sound of an aspen grove in autumn is like water flowing, leaves trembling, reflecting the sun, all painted in yellow, so clean, it seems otherworldly. Then there's the dogwood, smaller, quieter, but with leaves that glow deep red to purple, especially on the edges. Their color begins early, often before the days feel like fall. They are like a quiet prologue to the forest's main story. And the sweet gum, a star-shaped leaf with a painter's heart. Its pigments scatter wildly, sometimes all on the same branch. One leaf may be orange, the next yellow, then deep burgundy, then a green that refuses to change just yet. It's as if sweet gum refuses to pick just one season, and instead celebrates all of them at once. Now, look at the hickory. Hickories don't make red, but they shine golden yellow, a deep, buttery hue that arrives steadily and lasts. Their color often blends with oaks and maples nearby, adding warmth to the tapestry. And the black gum, a tree that doesn't stand out in summer, but in fall becomes something else. Its leaves turn bright red, sometimes edged with black. Small, oval, and glossy, they reflect light with a sharpness that makes even a modest tree feel regal. Of course, not all trees color brightly. Some, like the elm or the beech, may turn a pale tan or soft copper, and then hold their leaves, dry and papery, well into the cold months. Others, like conifers, pines, spruces, firs, stay green year-round. They do not drop their needles in fall. They have different strategies entirely, built for endurance rather than display. And still others, like the catalpa, may go straight from green to brown, bypassing color altogether. No red, no gold, just a quiet surrender. But even that is part of the story. The point isn't that every tree turns the same way. It's that every tree has a role in the forest's transition. Some arrive early, like the dogwood. Some stay late, like the oak. Some shift in harmony with their neighbors, creating waves of orange and yellow across the hills. Others turn in solitude, a single red maple by the roadside, flaring like a match against grey sky. What you see depends on the species, but also on your place in the world. Autumn in New England looks different from autumn in the Midwest, different again in the South, different in Europe, in Japan, in Canada. The trees are different. The climate is different, but the principle is the same. Each species brings its own pigments, its own chemistry, its own pace. Each tree is, in a way, a clock, ticking toward rest, ticking toward release, but doing so in its own time, in its own language of color. If you learn to read them, you'll start to notice patterns. You'll know which trees are first, which ones burn brightest, which ones save their farewell for the very last breath of warmth. The forest is not one thing turning color. It is many voices, changing one by one. It's easy to miss that, to see only the full scene, not the parts. But when you slow down, you see the differences, and suddenly, autumn becomes not a background, but a conversation. Each tree speaking in color, each leaf answering the season in its own tongue. Tonight, as you drift, imagine walking a path lined with many kinds of trees. Each step brings a new shade, gold to red, red to rust, rust to brown. Then, a sudden return to green, waiting for its moment. This variety is not chaos. It is harmony, like instruments tuning to the same note, but in their own tone. Together, they make the forest's last lullaby of the year. Soft, layered, honest. So let yourself rest in that chorus. Let each species become a brushstroke in your imagination. A yellow birch, a crimson maple, a bronze oak, a golden hickory, a marbled sweet gum. They are not trying to impress you. They are simply being themselves, right to the very end. And in that quiet expression, in that natural unforced color, you may find something that helps you sleep. We'll soon explore what happens inside each leaf as it prepares to fall. How cells close off, how stems loosen, how trees begin the elegant work of letting go. But not just yet. For now, they let the colors hold you and rest. The leaf does not fall all at once. Before it drifts to the ground, before it curls into the quiet of the forest floor, there is a soft, deliberate process, a letting go that begins not with the wind, but with the tree. This moment, this final act, has a name: abscission. It is the science of separation, of release, of knowing when to part ways with something that has served its purpose. The word sounds clinical, precise, but the process itself is anything but harsh. It is gentle, gradual, thoughtful. Let's walk into that moment now. Imagine a leaf, still clinging to the end of its stem, veins full of color, light still filtering through its surface. Inside the tree, a quiet message has already been sent. The days are shorter, the nights are cooler, the energy flowing into the leaf is no longer worth the cost. And so, in a slow and graceful motion, the tree begins to let the leaf go, but not by cutting it, not by snapping or tearing. Instead, it builds a barrier. At the base of each leaf stem, right where it meets the branch, a layer of specialized cells begins to grow, the abscission layer. This layer forms like a seam, cell by cell, across the connection between leaf and tree. At first, it's just a soft wall, barely there. But over time, it thickens. Cells in the abscission zone begin to weaken. They soften their walls. They lose their adhesion. The glue that once held leaf to branch begins to dissolve. But the tree does this carefully. It doesn't rush. While the cells are loosening, other parts of the layer are sealing. They form a protective barrier, so when the leaf finally drops, the tree is not left vulnerable. No open wound, no exposed surface, just a smooth scar, ready to face the winter. This too is part of the design. A leaf is not torn away. It is allowed to leave without harming what held it. You could think of it as the tree setting boundaries, healthy ones. It doesn't cling. It doesn't beg the leaf to stay. It prepares. It says goodbye with both strength and softness. And the leaf? It doesn't resist. As the abscission layer builds, the leaf receives fewer nutrients. Its veins close. Its pigment fades. Its structure dries and thins. And then, when the moment is right, gravity does the rest. The wind may help. A raindrop might tip the balance. But the true work was done in silence within the cells. And just like that, the leaf falls. Not because it failed, but because it finished. It doesn't cling out of pride. It doesn't fear the drop. It lets go, because that is what it was meant to do. There is a kind of dignity in that. We often think of falling as a kind of defeat, but here, in the quiet science of abscission, falling is a choice, a transition, a return, because the leaf, once it lands, has another role to play. It will break down. It will become part of the soil. It will feed the roots that once fed it. The letting go is not the end. It is a change of form, and so the forest prepares for rest, not with panic, not with grief, but with trust. The abscission layer is found in nearly all deciduous trees. Each species has its own timing, its own pace. Some trees begin forming this layer while their leaves are still green. Others wait until colour floods the canopy. Some leaves hang on after the seal is complete, remaining dry and brown, quivering long after others have fallen. But in each case, the principle is the same. Separation requires preparation, and preparation takes time. There is no tearing here, no sudden break, just a slow, biological goodbye. And once the leaf is gone, the branch does not mourn. It does not tremble in the emptiness. It simply rests, bare but intact, ready for cold, ready for stillness, and come spring, ready for growth. This process isn't just beautiful, it's essential. If a tree held onto its leaves through winter, they would become liabilities, heavy with snow, fragile in frost, draining resources when resources are scarce. By letting go, the tree survives. By surrendering, it endures. And in that surrender, there is structure. There is care. Even the cells that form the scar, the ones that close off the vascular tissue, are layered like bricks, built to keep out air, moisture, disease. The tree doesn't just release, it protects. Letting go doesn't mean being exposed, it means being wise. And so, as the forest shifts into this next phase, the rhythm slows. Leaves fall, one by one, from high branches and low. They spiral, they float, they land, and the canopy, once thick with colour, opens to the sky. It's quieter now. The wind moves more freely. Light filters in differently. The world feels emptied, but not abandoned, because the forest hasn't lost something. It has transformed. The ground, once shaded, becomes a tapestry of colour, a soft layer of future soil, a blanket for seeds, a bed for insects, a hiding place for life waiting to return. And all of it begins with that cellular seam, that invisible line, drawn gently between holding and release. The science of abscission is not just a function, it is a philosophy. That to grow again, you must sometimes let go. That holding on too long can cause harm. That preparation makes parting safer. It's strange, isn't it? How much the trees can teach. Not with words, but with their own biology. They don't need to explain. They simply do. And watching them, you might find a little more room to breathe, a little more permission, to pause, to release something you've held too long, or to rest before beginning again. Tonight, as you drift, imagine the forest mid-fall, the sky visible through thinning branches, a few leaves still clinging, but most already on their way. Feel the quiet rhythm of separation, not harsh, not tragic, just natural, like a breath out, like a soft hand opening, like a door quietly closing, to keep the cold out. And in that rhythm, let your body rest too. Your thoughts, your memories, your questions, they don't all have to stay. You can let some of them go, like the tree lets go of its leaves, with care, with grace, with trust. And when you do, you'll find you're still whole, still strong, still rooted, just lighter. The tree knows this. It has known it for a very long time. So rest now in that wisdom, in the science of letting go, and sleep. The leaf has let go. Its stem has loosened. The abscission layer has done its quiet work. The bond between branch and blade has dissolved, like breath on a cold window. And now, the leaf falls. It doesn't plummet. It drifts, turning slowly in the air, spinning gently like a paper lantern set loose. There's no rush in its descent, no panic, only patience. This is not the end of the leaf story. It's simply the next chapter, one that takes place not in the canopy above, but on the forest floor. Because even in falling, the leaf still has a role to play. The moment it touches earth, a new purpose begins. It will no longer capture sunlight, no longer carry water, no longer hold colour, but now it will feed the world. Let's imagine where the leaf goes next. It lands lightly, on moss, perhaps, or among other fallen leaves. The air is cool. Moisture begins to gather. The leaf darkens. It softens. Its veins, once strong and proud, begin to collapse. The edges curl. The colour fades from gold or red to dull brown. This is decomposition, but there is nothing grim about it. It is not decay as destruction, but decay as generosity. Because now, the leaf begins to give back. Fungi arrive first. Their spores land quietly on the surface, and threads of mycelium begin to weave through the leaf's tissues, not breaking it apart in violence, but unraveling it with skill and slowness. They release enzymes that unlock the nutrients inside: carbon, nitrogen, calcium, phosphorus. All the elements that once made the leaf alive now become available again. Then come the bacteria, microscopic workers, invisible but tireless. They help digest what remains, passing molecules from one form to another, transforming structure into sustenance. Insects join too, tiny beetles, mites, and springtails that chew and tunnel and turn. Worms arrive from below, pulling bits of leaf down into the soil, leaving behind trails rich with fertility. All of this happens slowly, over weeks, then months, and as winter deepens, snow may fall, covering the forest floor, insulating this quiet work beneath. But the process continues, even under frost, even under silence. By the time spring returns, the leaf has changed. It is no longer a thing. It is now a part of everything. Its atoms have scattered into the soil, into the roots, into the breath of tiny living things. What once was leaf is now forest. This cycle happens not once, but millions of times, every season. Each tree drops thousands of leaves. Each leaf becomes part of the forest's nutrient loop. And in this way, the forest sustains itself. The tall feeds the small. The light becomes food. The dead makes room for the living. This isn't waste. It's wealth, of the natural kind. Even the structure of a fallen leaf helps. A thick layer of leaves on the ground, shields the soil from erosion. It slows rain, so water seeps in gently. It insulates roots against freezing temperatures. It also creates habitat for insects, amphibians, microbes, for seeds waiting to sprout, for fungi building networks underground. Every autumn leaf is a small gift to the future, and the tree knows this. It doesn't try to keep the leaf. It lets it fall, because it trusts the ground to make use of it. The forest is full of these unspoken agreements. Give and release. Drop and return. Live and let that life become something else. There's a kind of comfort in that. To know that even after something ends, it can still contribute, still nourish, still matter. This is not recycling in the mechanical sense. It is regeneration. The forest does not just reuse, it renews. It transforms what falls into what rises. It turns the dead into the foundation of the living. So as you lie here, breathing slowly, you might picture yourself as a leaf that has just let go, not empty, not lost, but gently arriving in a place where your rest becomes a beginning. The ground beneath you is not cold or final. It is fertile. It is soft. It is ready to take what you no longer carry and make something new. That's what the forest does. It accepts. It transforms. It waits. And over time, what was once individual becomes communal. You are no longer just a leaf. You are part of the soil, the seed, the sapling, a quiet continuation. There's more too. Some fallen leaves don't break down right away. In dry places, they stay intact for months. Their edges remain curled, their veins still visible. They are not forgotten. They are simply waiting for the right moment to shift. Because even decay needs conditions. Moisture, heat, time. So, there is no failure in remaining, no rush to disappear. Everything moves at the pace of its environment, of its need, of its role. You may rest now, even if your transformation has not begun. Even if you are simply lying still, waiting. That, too, is part of the cycle. Even when you don't feel useful, you are becoming something. Slowly, silently, surely. So let the leaf fall again in your mind. Let it land. Let it rest. Let it be touched by rain, by frost, by time, and watch, gently, as it turns, into the next thing. Because nothing is wasted in the forest. Not even the quietest ending. Soon, we'll look more closely at the meaning of this pattern, how change becomes rhythm, and rhythm becomes memory. How seasons are not just pages turning, but stories repeating with grace. But for now, let yourself drift, as the leaf does, purposeful, soft, becoming part of something larger. The forest is still there, and so are you, safe, still, becoming. There is something about autumn that feels familiar, even if you've never studied a tree, even if you've never raked a leaf, even if you live where the seasons barely change at all. Some part of you still recognizes this shift. The softening of light, the golden hush in the afternoons, the slow retreat of green. It's as if something deep inside you remembers. But how can that be? How can the fall of leaves, a botanical process driven by light and chemistry, stir something in your chest that feels like memory? Maybe it's because the seasons themselves are a kind of memory, a pattern repeated so many times that they've left their mark, not just on the earth, but on us. You've heard it before. The earth tilts, orbits, spins, but it doesn't just move through space. It moves through time, carving rhythm into the year. Light returns, light fades, warmth grows, warmth wanes. Spring to summer, summer to fall, fall to winter, winter to spring, again and again. Each season gives, each season takes, and each leaves something behind. The forest knows this. The trees remember, not in the way you do, not with stories or photographs, but with structure, with growth rings, with timing. A tree can't tell you about last October, but you can read it in its wood. Each ring in a tree's trunk holds a record of the year it lived. Wider rings mean more growth, a generous season. Narrow rings show hardship, drought, disease, or chill. And just like that, the memory of the environment is pressed into the body of the tree. Not metaphor, literal memory. Physical proof that time leaves traces. And it's not only trees. Soil remembers too. Snow depth, fallen leaves, the colour of moss, all shaped by what came before. Even animals move in memory. Birds migrate at familiar times. Bears sleep. Insects vanish, only to return when the time is right. Plants bloom on schedule. Leaves drop not in surprise, but in accordance. It's not prediction, it's pattern. And in pattern, there is trust. When the world repeats itself this many times, you begin to believe that change is not chaos, but rhythm. And rhythm, even when it brings endings, can be soothing. Perhaps that's why we feel what we do when autumn arrives. It doesn't shock us. It doesn't unsettle. It slows us down, makes us quieter, softer, reflective. We feel the shortening of the day, not as a loss, but as a calling inward, as if the outer world gently suggests an inner one. The falling leaf reminds us, this, too, has happened before, and it will happen again. It's a kind of cosmic lullaby, and somewhere inside, you know the melody. Because seasons don't just shape ecosystems. They shape emotions. They shape memory. You remember autumn, not only with your eyes, but with your senses. The smell of dry leaves, the crunch beneath your feet, the way the air feels cooler on your skin, but the sun feels warmer against it, the way time seems to stretch as light begins to leave sooner. Even your internal clock shifts. Melatonin, serotonin, body temperature. You are a participant in this slow turning. You are not separate from it. You too are seasonal, and that's a gentle truth. Because in a world that often demands newness, the seasons give you permission to return, to repeat, to rest. They remind you that it's okay to do the same things again, to feel things you've felt before, to circle back, to start over, just like the trees, just like the leaves. Memory lives in these cycles, and through them, you are connected to more than just yourself. You are part of a story, being told again and again by the earth, by light, by the chemistry of letting go. You don't have to remember every detail. The science, the terms, the processes, those can drift away as you rest. But maybe you'll hold on to this. That change isn't something that interrupts the pattern. Change is the pattern. That falling is part of rhythm. That release is not forgetting. It's the way memory continues. When a leaf falls, it doesn't vanish. Its shape, its nutrients, its form, all move forward into something else. Just as the tree moves forward by staying still, and the forest moves forward by allowing each piece to play its part. Some trees remember through their bark, some through seed, some through soil, and you remember through feeling, through the echo of the season, carried quietly inside you, that deep, familiar sense that things are changing, but not ending. And if you've been here before, you know what happens next. After the blaze of colour, the quiet returns, the trees grow bare, the forest hushes, and there is rest. Not dormancy without purpose, but rest as preparation, rest as trust. That light will return. That green will rise again. This is memory as rhythm, and rhythm as comfort. So let it settle into you tonight. Let your breath follow the season. Slow, soft, steady. In, out, hold, release. The way a leaf holds light, and then lets it go. The way a branch bears weight, and then becomes bare. The way the year turns its page. When you're ready, we'll visit one last place, beneath the trees, where the meaning of all this softly waits. But for now, you can rest inside the memory of colour, of pattern, of time that does not rush and change, that does not ask permission. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the rhythm hold you like the forest does. By now, the forest has grown quiet. The bright blaze of leaves has softened to earth tones. The branches stand more bare than full. The light filters in without resistance, and the ground is a soft patchwork of what once lived above. You are standing at the end of a cycle, but not the end of the story. Because what autumn teaches, if you listen closely, is that rest is not retreat. It is not failure. It is part of becoming. The leaves that turned and fell were not lost. They were released. They served, and then they were given back to the earth, to begin again in another form. They made room for quiet, for reflection, for pause. And in doing so, they taught the forest how to breathe differently. The trees no longer need to reach. They no longer need to gather. They no longer need to make. Now, they only need to be bare, still, wise. Their work will begin again in spring. The buds will return. The light will lengthen. Green will rise up the branches like a soft tide. But not yet. For now, they are in a state we rarely celebrate. They are at rest. And in that rest, they are not inactive. They are preparing, rebuilding, root-deep work that cannot be seen, but makes all future growth possible. It's easy to forget that. In our world, pause is often confused with weakness, stillness mistaken for laziness, rest seen as a reward, not a rhythm. But the forest reminds us, rest is necessary. Rest is part of the cycle. Rest is wisdom, spoken in silence. Even the leaves knew. They knew when to stop gathering light, when to stop holding on, when to fall gently into the next phase of being. There is a kind of grace in that, and perhaps a kind of invitation to stop holding yourself in full display, to allow the effort to end, to let the parts of you that have been working so hard settle into softness, to trust that the ground beneath you can catch what you release. Tonight, you don't have to do more. You don't have to learn more. You don't have to be more. You can simply rest, like the leaves, like the trees, like the season itself. And in that rest, you are still part of the pattern. You are still moving forward. Even as you lie still, the forest doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It trusts in the pace of things. And so can you. So, take a breath, deep, slow, full of leaf-scented air. Let it out with the ease of something that has let go. Feel the weight drop from your shoulders. Feel your thoughts settle like leaves on quiet soil. You have followed the journey, from green to gold, from pigment to purpose, from canopy to earth. You've seen the hidden colours emerge. You've watched the light retreat. You've walked with trees through their transformation. And now, you've arrived, beneath the branches, where everything is resting, where you can rest, too, where you belong, where you've always belonged. Thank you for spending this slow, quiet hour with Boring Science for Sleep. If you're already asleep, stay there. Let the rhythm continue without you. And if you're still here, just breathing and drifting, know that the forest is with you. soft, still, changing, and you are part of it all. Good night, sleep well, and let yourself fall gently into rest.